The knock came at 6:47 in the morning. Owen knew the time because he had been awake since 5, sitting with his coffee at the kitchen table the way he did most mornings, not quite ready for the day, not quite willing to go back to sleep. He heard the knock, then nothing. No second knock. No voice. Just silence. He opened the front door and looked down. A little boy sat on the porch step with a backpack between his knees. He was small, maybe 3 years old, with dark eyes and his father's jawline and a look on his face that was too careful for a child his age. The look of someone who had been told to sit still and wait, and had decided that waiting was something he knew how to do. Tucked into the front pocket of the backpack was an envelope. Owen's name was written on it in handwriting he recognized immediately. He looked up and down the empty street. A car was just rounding the corner at the end of the block. He looked back at the boy. The boy looked at him with those careful dark eyes and said, quietly and clearly, "Mommy said you would know what to do." Owen stood in the doorway for a moment that felt much longer than it was. Then he crouched down to the boy's level and said, "What's your name?" "Eli," the boy said. "Okay, Eli," Owen said. "Come inside." Owen Carter was 34 years old and had been completely unprepared for this morning. He worked as a high school history teacher in Portland, Oregon. He lived alone in a small house he was slowly making livable, new paint in the kitchen last spring, a porch he had fixed himself over a long weekend. He had a routine that worked. He had built it carefully after a period of his life that had not been routine at all. 4 years ago, he had been with a woman named Diane. They had been together for 2 years, not always easy, but real in the way that things are real when two people are genuinely trying. Then Diane had left. Not with a fight, not with a clean conversation. She had simply moved to a different city, and then her calls had become less frequent, and then they had stopped. He had tried to find her. Not obsessively, but genuinely. He had left messages that were never returned. Eventually, he had accepted that some endings don't come with explanations. The envelope in Eli's backpack pocket changed everything he had accepted. He sat Eli at the kitchen table with a glass of milk and a piece of bread, the most immediately child-appropriate things he owned, and opened the envelope. The letter was 3 paragraphs long. He read it twice. When he finished, he set it down on the table. He looked at Eli. Eli was eating the bread with the focused seriousness of a child who had not eaten recently. Owen got up and made more food. The letter said 3 things. First, that Eli was his son. That Diane had known she was pregnant when she left and had made the decision to handle it alone. She did not explain why. Second, that she was not well. She used careful language, the kind of language people use when they want to say something true without saying all of it. She said she was in a place where she could not take care of Eli the way he deserved. She said she had tried for 3 years and had reached a point where she understood that trying harder was no longer the right answer. Third, that she was sorry. Not for Eli, she said that clearly. She did not regret him. She was sorry for Owen, for the years, for the way she had handled things. There was no return address. Owen read the letter a 3rd time and then a 4th. He was looking for something, a detail that would make it feel less real, or more explainable, or something other than exactly what it was. There was nothing like that in the letter. He folded it and put it in his shirt pocket. He went back to the kitchen where Eli had finished the bread and was looking around the room with quiet, systematic curiosity, cataloging the space the way small children do when they're deciding whether somewhere is safe. "Do you know who I am?" Owen asked. Eli nodded. "You're my dad," he said. Matter-of-factly. Like it was something he had been told and decided to believe. Owen sat down across from him and said nothing for a moment. "That's right," he said finally. "I'm your dad." The first week was the kind of difficult that doesn't announce itself loudly. Owen called into school, explained a family emergency, which was true, and was given 3 days. He used those days to do the most immediate things: a pediatrician appointment, a trip to the store for the things a 3-year-old needed, a conversation with a family attorney who outlined the legal steps for establishing guardianship. Eli was quiet and watchful. He did not cry for his mother, at least not in front of Owen. He ate what he was given, slept in Owen's bed because the house had only one bedroom and Owen hadn't yet sorted out the second room, and woke each morning with the same careful, assessing expression he had worn on the porch. Owen called his sister, Laura, in Sacramento. "Tell me everything," she said. He did. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Are you okay?" "I don't know yet," Owen said honestly. "Do you want me to come?" He looked at Eli, who was sitting on the living room floor examining a small collection of Owen's things, a paperclip, a coaster, a pen, with the concentration of a scientist. "Not yet," Owen said. "I need to figure out what normal looks like first." That night, after Eli was asleep, Owen sat in the kitchen with the letter again. He read it one more time. Then he put it in the drawer beside the stove, a place for things he needed to be able to find but didn't need to look at every day. He went to bed and lay in the dark beside his sleeping son and listened to him breathe. 3 weeks in, Owen went back to work. He found a daycare 2 blocks from the school, not perfect, but decent, run by a woman named Mrs. Patterson who had the practical warmth of someone who had managed children's emergencies for 30 years. Owen walked Eli in on the first morning. Eli surveyed the room, located the block corner, and walked toward it without looking back. Owen stood at the door. Mrs. Patterson touched his arm briefly. "He'll be fine," she said. "Go teach." He taught. He got through the day. He picked Eli up at 4 and they walked home together, Eli's hand in his, and Eli talked about the blocks with a detail and passion that surprised Owen completely. "I made a tower," Eli said. "A really big one. Then Jake knocked it down." "How did that feel?" Owen said. Eli considered. "Bad," he said. "Then I made a bigger one." Owen looked down at him. "Good plan," he said. The weeks built on each other. Owen learned the specific architecture of a 3-year-old's needs, not just food and sleep, but rhythm, routine, the right kind of attention at the right moments. He made mistakes. He gave Eli cereal for dinner twice when he was too tired to cook properly and felt guilty both times. He forgot to buy more of the specific juice Eli liked and the substitution was firmly rejected. He also learned Eli's laugh. He heard it for the first time on a Saturday afternoon when Owen made a ridiculous face while doing the dishes and Eli, watching from the table, dissolved completely. That laugh was loud and full and entirely unguarded. It did something to Owen that he hadn't expected. By summer, they had a rhythm. Owen taught summer school 3 days a week. Eli went to Mrs. Patterson's. On the other days, Owen took Eli to the park, the library, the Saturday farmers market where Eli had developed an inexplicable devotion to a particular vendor's apple slices. Laura came to visit in July. She spent 5 days and left with tears in her eyes that she blamed on allergies. "He's incredible," she said at the airport. "Owen. He's really incredible." "I know," Owen said. "And you're doing an incredible job." Owen looked at his shoes. "I'm figuring it out." "That is the job," Laura said. That conversation stayed with him. He turned it over on the drive home, Eli asleep in the car seat, the summer evening warm through the windows. The thing he had not told Laura, had not told anyone, was the question that lived quietly at the back of most days. The question about Diane. Where she was. Whether she was okay. Whether Eli would one day ask questions that Owen didn't have answers to. He had received one message from her. A text, 3 weeks after she had left Eli, from an unfamiliar number. It said only, "He's in good hands. I can feel it. Thank you." He had tried to reply. The number had already been disconnected. He kept the message. In September, Eli started asking about his mother. Not dramatically. The way 4-year-olds ask about things, casually, sometimes mid-play, sometimes out of nowhere at bedtime. Where is mommy? Why doesn't mommy live with us? Does mommy know where I am? Owen had thought about this. He had read articles, spoken briefly to a child therapist through his school's employee assistance program. He had prepared honest, age-appropriate answers that didn't close doors. Mommy loves you, he told Eli. She's going through something hard. She wanted you to be safe and happy, and she knew you would be safe and happy with me. Is she sad? Eli asked. I think she probably misses you, Owen said carefully. But she made sure you were okay first. That's what parents do. Eli thought about this. You're my dad, he said. Yes. Are you sad? Owen looked at his son. Sometimes, he said. But mostly I'm happy. Because of you. Eli seemed to accept this with the same matter-of-fact certainty he applied to most things. He went back to his blocks. Owen sat on the living room floor and watched him build and felt the specific weight of being someone's entire world, not heavy in a crushing way, but significant. The way important things feel when you hold them properly. The call came on a Wednesday evening in October. Owen was making dinner. Eli was drawing at the kitchen table. The phone rang, an unfamiliar number, but a Portland area code. He answered. The voice on the other end was a woman's, careful, slightly formal. She introduced herself as a social worker named Angela. She said she was calling about a woman named Diane. Owen turned the stove down. He moved to the hallway, out of Eli's earshot. Diane, Angela explained, had been hospitalized. She had been dealing with severe depression and had finally, accepted inpatient treatment. She was stable now. She was doing the work. And she had asked Angela to make contact. Not to reclaim anything. Not to disrupt anything. Simply to know that Eli was okay. She asked if you would be willing to receive a letter from her, Angela said. Just a letter. You don't have to respond. Owen stood in the hallway for a moment. She's getting better, he asked. She's working very hard, Angela said. That's the most honest way I can put it. Owen thought about Eli building a bigger tower. Yes, he said. She can write. The letter came 10 days later. It was 2 pages. Diane wrote about the depression, how long it had been there, how it had shaped the decision to leave, how wrong she had been to disappear without explanation. She wrote that she was not asking for anything. She wrote that she hoped Owen and Eli were well. She said she would understand completely if she never heard back. Owen read the letter. He put it in the drawer beside the stove, next to the first one. Then he went and sat beside Eli on the floor, and they built something together. He wrote back. He took 3 drafts and 4 days to do it, but he wrote back. He did not write out of obligation or guilt. He wrote because Eli deserved to live in a world where the adults around him had chosen honesty over bitterness whenever they were able. He told Diane that Eli was healthy and happy. He described the blocks, the apple slices from the market, the laugh. He said that the questions about her had started and that he was handling them the best he could and would continue to. He did not promise anything beyond correspondence. He did not offer reunion or forgiveness on a timeline. He was honest about where he was, which was a place of complicated, partial understanding, and genuine hope for her recovery. He signed it, sealed it, sent it through Angela. 3 months passed. Letters went back and forth, carefully, slowly, with appropriate distance. Diane was making progress. The letters grew slightly warmer, slightly more like 2 people who had once known each other trying to find a way to be honestly useful to a child they both loved. Eli turned 4 in December. Owen made him a cake, lopsided, enthusiastically decorated by Eli himself with approximately too many sprinkles. Laura called from Sacramento and sang happy birthday badly over the phone. Eli laughed the full, unguarded laugh. Owen took a photograph of the cake. He sent a copy to Angela for Diane. It was not a resolution. It was not a happy ever after. It was something more honest than that, a beginning, arrived at through the long, unglamorous work of simply showing up. Spring came back to Portland. Eli was 4.5 now. He had opinions about everything, his shoes, the order of his books on the shelf, which park was the best park and why. He had started asking Owen to read to him every night, and Owen had discovered that he had strong preferences about which voices Owen used for which characters. One Saturday morning, Eli woke up early and climbed into Owen's side of the bed the way he had started doing, without announcement, without asking, simply arriving and settling in. Owen lay there in the early morning with his son's small weight beside him and the light just beginning to come through the curtain, and thought about the morning 14 months ago when he had opened a door and looked down and found his whole life rearranged on the porch. He thought about everything he hadn't known how to do then. Everything he had learned out of necessity, out of love, out of the simple requirement that someone needed him to figure it out. He was not the same person who had opened that door. He was not certain that person could have done what the last 14 months had asked of him. But he was the person who had stayed, and learned, and built something real in a house that had once felt too quiet. Eli opened his eyes. He looked at Owen with the dark, careful eyes that were so completely his own. "Dad," he said. "Yeah," Owen said. "Can we get apple slices today?" Owen laughed. "Yeah," he said. "We can get apple slices." Eli smiled, the full, unguarded one, and pulled the blanket up around himself. Some families are planned. Some are inherited. Some arrive on a porch step at 6:47 in the morning with a backpack and careful eyes and a sentence that turns out to be the beginning of everything. Owen reached over and tucked the blanket in around his son. Outside, Portland was waking up. The day was about to begin.